Hello, friend.
Hello.
Welcome to Borgcast 15.5 with Peter and Anne-Marie, covering episode 5 of Picard.
Yay.
We have some...
Previously on Star Trek Picard.
We've heard from Mighty Zim.
Oh, hello. And he writes, hello. Long-time lurker Mighty Zim here, following the broadcast along with the Picard series. Thanks to the Rev Org mentioning the chateau being recreated, my worm-riddled mind has now decided to set this Star Trek in the Hello cinematic universe. So we have Picard as the Vineyard, Raffi on the Backy, Dr. Durante of the Department of Making Androids Handy, Elnor the Legolas Ranger, Rios and his little ship, and finally 7 of 9 with the big never you mind. I can't stop imagining Rizzo and Nurek playing the characters of Herr Flick and von Smallhausen. Looking forward to episode 5 where Picard gets blamed for number 1 eating somebody's homework. P.S. The gun without a stun is in the Chateau Picard with the Vineyard, found under the table with the Gateau.
Yes, hello. Wow. Yes, that makes some sense if you've seen that 1980s BBC TV series, but yeah. And we descend to even worse hello parodies in this episode as well, but never mind.
Oh, we do. It's just awful.
We've also heard from Puri.
Hello, Orgs. Puri here to feedback on episode 4 of Picard for your Piecast. Yeah, I'm going with Piecast. I'm glad you guys picked up on the Man from Del Monte vibes. That was the first one I was getting. When Picard arrives, I was half thinking, oh, the man from Starfleet, he say yes. And indeed, I found this a pretty enjoyable episode. We had some proper space stuff, a space battle. I'd still like to get a better look at the spaceship. Must take a look at your Tumblr, see if you've got any screen grabs, or indeed anyone else. I've kind of been hoping that one of the people like Spaceship Porn or someone or Space Doc would have pulled out a kind of some good stills of the ship so we can get a good look at it. Lovely to see the old classic Bird of Prey. I know you guys said it's old, but bear in mind the Excelsior's been running for admittedly not as long, but a reliable space frame, potentially just with upgrades. Obviously it wouldn't be running in the same configuration as it did in the 23rd century, but potentially these things could run for hundreds of years. We're not in Warhammer territory yet, where ships are millennia old. Speaking of Warhammer, we meet the Sisters of Battle. Nah, it's just a different group of warrior monks. And this is one of the things that I really liked about this. So, a lot of the series is going on about how Picard screwed up with his resignation, and we're seeing a lot more of this idea of, to an extent, Picard was almost working to the legend we work to. So if you think of him going in, before he's managed to solve a problem, when something's gone wrong, he has gone in, made a big stirring speech, and people have gone, well, yes, and who wouldn't? Patrick Stewart does an amazing stirring speech, and that's worked for him in the past, and this is the first time that he's come up, done his big stirring speech, and Starfleet have still gone, no, actually, we're not doing that, and we're going down this route that you really don't like, and he basically, when he lost, he legged it, he ran away, and we saw the collateral damage last time with Raffi, and we're seeing the collateral damage now, and I loved some of the things. So yes, the Romulans are a lot less beige, and I like this idea. It actually makes me like the beige Romulans of Unification more, because the beige Romulans were living under this oppressive state, where everyone was conforming, they all had the same bowl cut, the same big shoulders, and the same beige outfits. And the idea is that all this time there were these other Romulans working underground or just keeping concealed, and when the planet exploded and things were in chaos, they could then all go and live on a planet and start to express themselves without worry that, say, the Tal Shiar are going to come and kick them in. And so I like this idea, but also that there's the idea that some Romulans see this as it was all a federal. Bear in mind, the Romulans are circles, the Romulan government are ploys within ploys within ploys, and they could see that as the Federation took this as an opportunity to break up the Romulans, to encourage dissidents. It's not like Picard's made a planet of dissidents, but the Federation has definitely allowed the people who were maybe against the big Romulan governments to flourish with very little redress, and we kind of see that with the Senator. We get a new cast member, and I was thinking Legolas, but that's only because my Lord of the Rings knowledge isn't as good. I am aware House Lama has much more Lord of the Rings knowledge than me, so I will bow to their young Elrond vibe. But yeah, and I do like the way we're kind of putting together a group. I also like the way going places takes time. This was one of my big criticisms with the JJ Trek. He liked it being kind of a Star Wars hyperdrive, and I do like the big empty. I also like the weapons hologram, and indeed the fact that he's a bit lazy. And we finally... One of the things, though, they kept mentioning the Fenris Rangers. Now, I know I've heard about them in publicity stuff, but all I can think is, go, go Fenris Rangers! That's all that comes into my head, and I think I'm going to struggle with the next episode because of this. But yeah, we get to see 7 at the end. So yeah, overall, I think this was actually just generally solid. We had some good... I wonder if every episode is going to have some flashbacks. I wonder if this is kind of how the format's going to be, is we get a wee flashback, and then we get into the episode proper. I don't know. But it'll be interesting to find out. So all it remains for me to say is do keep up the good work. I always look forward to the podcast, or in this case the Piecast, and I'll hopefully feedback for the next episode. But until then, bye for now.
Bye, Perry. Thank you.
It's not the Piecast. It's the Picast. It's not Captain Picard. It's Captain Picard. Picast.
But it is the Pie Man, so you can be excused. Yeah, there is definitely a theme and it carries through to this episode as well. We seem to start with flashbacks every time now, so that's a thing. Mighty Morphin Fenris Rangers, yes.
I did wonder, the old bird of prey, is it maybe like Bessie from Doctor Who? That it's like a classic design that's been properly souped up?
Yeah, don't know. I mean, it was described by Rios as being an antique that he was flying about in, so rather suggests that it is the original 130-year-old ship. Yeah. But yeah, good point about 40k, of course. They've got using spaceships at millennia-old, but there we are.
Yeah.
I have got some screen grabs of the Serena on Tumblr, but they're not great because everything moves too quickly on this show, so you're not getting the nice, beauty shots that we used to get in TNG, which is a shame, but never mind.
And I like the idea that the beige Romulans were oppressed.
Yes, under the totalitarian government, and now you're seeing a bit more colour and differentiation, which is nice.
Yeah.
Very good. Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
So let's move on to tonight's episode.
With the ickiness of icky. Ew.
Yes, Stardust City Rag, which is, a bit of an odd title. I don't quite know where they're getting there.
Disgusting thing. Once they get the Borg inside them, there is no coming back, no matter what they think. Defiled is what you are. Damned, cursed.
Quite a prize. Rare to find one with so many implants still fully operational.
She is not one of the new ones. The Borg entered her. She was a jeune fille. You are going to have to dice her up to get it all out. A little squeamish, are we? I can take my trade elsewhere.
No, not squeamish. Not at all.
It starts with Icheb getting his eyes pulled out. Grim beyond belief. Yes, this is on the planet Vergessen, which is German for forget.
Yeah.
I rather suspect you rather would want to, really, but there we are. Icheb, of course, featured as one of the Borg children, although this isn't the same actor, which would become as a relief to many people who don't like him very much. Yeah. Seven turns up, kills everybody, and has to do a mercy killing on Icheb as well. And we see various Borg bits hanging from the ceiling, which just reminds me of Hellraiser, to be honest. So, yeah, very grim start for a Star Trek episode, it has to be said. Cut to Stardust City on Free Cloud 2 weeks ago, and a woman wearing wicker shoulder pads. I kid you not.
Yeah.
Wicker shoulder pads, wow. Has plans for Bruce Maddox. Even more wonderfully, it turns out her name is Vjazzle, which is so close to Vjazzle, that will now be her name.
Yes.
And that's a reference to very early Borgcasts. Who was our name for the barber?
Yes, the other barber that wasn't Mott.
Yes. She's accompanied by a Beta Anari, who's a sentient lizard man called Mr. Vup. And he's played by Dominic Burgess, who was in Doctor Who back in Bad Wolf. Right. He's one of the contestants, and was in The Good Place more recently. Sadly, Maddox is not played by Brian Brophy, as in Measure of a Man. I think because he's now, according to Memory Alpha, Director of Theatre Arts at California Institute of Technology. Oh. Which I suspect this year's sort of TV appearances will be a bit beneath him now, but there we go. Instead, he's played by someone called John Ailes, who's not a bad likeness behind a beard, so that kind of works. In a nice touch, he's drinking Tranya, although that turns out to be spiked. Seven visits Picard in his holographic study. And apparently, yes, she's a member of the Mighty Morphin Fenris Rangers. We also discover Agnes had a romantic past with Maddox, which possibly might explain why she's on this mission, although that does take quite a right-hand turn at the end of the episode, doesn't it? Blimey. As they approach Free Cloud, they get spammed with holograms, which is quite amusing.
Like that.
Although Elnor is disappointed not to have gotten one. Raffi discovers Maddox's situation, and it turns out Seven and the Rangers are after Vjazzle, who's the one removing Borg parts after selling them. So Seven offers herself in exchange for Maddox. We get a better look at Stardust City, which is very Blade Runner 2049, complete with giant holograms. Although, there is a Quark's bar and a Mr. Mott's Barbers.
Yes.
Which, on the one hand, isn't, it's nice little callbacks, but does seem a tad improbable unless they've both built up and sold very successful franchises.
Yes, that's what it is. It's like McDonald's.
Right. Okay.
Every town has a Quarks.
Yes, and this isn't the last Quark reference either, because Rios beams down dressed like a 70s pimp. Yes, he's disguised as a facer to meet with Mr. Vup in a cool-looking club decked out with old-style light bulbs for some reason. And yes, Mr. Quark of Ferenginar and the Breen get a name drop, which is nice.
Yeah.
Then we see Picard in his disguise, which is truly something. Complete with eye patch.
Primos!
Yes, it's cosplay, Travis. And that's a Blake 7 reference, oh my. Yes, and the disguise comes equipped with an outrageous French accent.
Oh, it is so hello.
We have gone from last of summer wine to hello, yeah.
Oh, and it's like, the stupid thing is that, of course, Picard, the character, he's French. He should be able to do a normal French accent.
Yeah, but that wouldn't be flamboyant enough, would it, for this? So, yeah.
And the eye patch, does he think he's Nick Fury or something?
I don't know. I really don't.
It's terrible.
Constantly lifting it up, isn't he?
Oh, yes.
Raffi is off on her own mission to find Gabriel Huang, who we find out is her son, whom she abandoned along with her partner when she got caught up in the conspiracy around the synths. He wants something to do with her, so she ends up back on the Serena at the end of it. Seven turns on Vjazzle, and the plan goes to pot as it turns out to be a vengeance mission on her part. Murder is not justice, Picard points out. Meanwhile, Rios kind of saves the day by zapping Mr. Vup, who was about to turn on him.
He vupped his ass.
Very good. And points out killing Vjazzle would put a price on all their heads, and a death mark's not an easy thing to live with. Sorry, wrong franchise, I keep doing that. Agnes beams them aboard. Seven gives Picard some sort of communication device to get hold of her in future. Oh yeah, that's going to pay off by the end of the season, isn't it? They swap reflections on how they're both working on regaining their humanity, having been absorbed by the Borg. And there's a nice musical reference to the Voyager theme as Seven beams back. When she does, she takes out Vjazzle along with a bunch of security types in a very kick-ass fashion.
Yeah.
Maddox reveals he sent Daj and Soji to their respective destinations to find out who was behind the Synth Rebellion. Rios refers to Picard as Jefe, which I never knew what that meant before. I've heard it in a few movies, but yes, apparently means old man, and Picard is not impressed. I'm doing a learn, though. Agnes then kills Maddox. So, there's a really grim beginning, and then it sort of it turns into a jolly heist, and then it suddenly goes dark again at the end. I mean, we had our suspicions about her from the beginning, but blimey, that's still pretty shocking. Yeah. So I could have done without the icky beginning in particular. I don't think we needed to see that level of detail, for heaven's sake. But other than that, I thought it was quite a jolly episode with a very grim ending.
Yeah.
It's nice to have Seven back, and those sort of Voyager references are quite cool. I don't think anybody's going to be particularly upset about the fact that Icheb is now properly dead, except for the actor who originally played him, who apparently was hoping to be back in this series. No chance of that.
What Agnes says is, because she's all feigning this whole I can't kill people, I can't do anything, and she kills Maddox. She's like, I wish I could unknow what I know, but I've seen what they've shown me and whatever.
Yes, that's obviously a reference to whatever Commodore O said to her, presumably.
Yeah.
So yeah, there was obviously something went on with those shades, didn't it? But yeah, well, a nice fast-paced episode that pushed the plot along.
Yeah, it was. Them all sort of pretending to be other people was very daft, but you could tell that Raffi thought they were all daft and a bit crap anyway.
Yes.
You know, so that's just the French accent. Bad, hello, terribleness. Was, I think that's got to be our play-out tune.
Well, we have had it before, of course.
Have we?
Yes. I think it was back in Family.
Oh.
Yes, last time we spent last time in France, so yeah. No. So we might resort to that, but we shall see.
We shall see what happens. Okay, who have we heard from?
We've heard from Robert.
Oh, and he writes, Hi, long-time listener, first-time feedbacker here to talk about episode 5 of Picard. First things first, I am 100% sure you have already picked this up, but I couldn't hear Vjazzle and think Vjazzle. Yes. Free Cloud having a billboard for Mott the Barber did not help. You really don't want to cut your hair, though. She'd probably miss and rip your eye out, like the guy from Voyager in the teaser. Speaking of Voyager, she later gets vaporised by 7 of 9. A rather gruesome episode, all in all. Alas, poor Maddox, we barely knew Lee, probably because we couldn't get the original actor back. What's Jurassi's game, though? The plot thickens. So Picard and co get to Free Cloud, where they've been talking about for a few episodes. It's your standard, mostly lawless commerce planet, which wouldn't be out of place in something like Farscape, speaking of ripping eyes out, which is what I expected. But the name still sounds like an internet service provider.
Yes.
I like Picard reprising his space pirate thing from Gambit, with the addition of a hat, eye patch, and very meta French accent. Overall, still enjoying Picard, still enjoying the podcast. All the best to keep up the good work, Robert.
Oh yeah, it doesn't really compare
Thank
to
you.
Gambit because
No.
he was putting on no disguise whatsoever beyond a costume.
Yes.
Whereas here, he's really thrown himself into the role, isn't he?
Yes, and he didn't. Yeah, there's the hamming up is just.
Thank you, Robert. Good to hear from you.
Yay, thank you.
Also heard from Andrew. Hello, folks. Well, that was an eye-opening episode, wasn't it?
Oh.
Best not watched over mealtime, especially if meatballs and spaghetti is on the menu. Seems Federation's data protection and privacy rules need a bit of a tweak, yes. And Rios seems to have forgotten to turn on his pop-up blocker on his nav console. I get the feeling it's lucky Riker wasn't on board, otherwise the episode rating may have been an 18. Yeah. There's a lot to unpack in the episode, with a few hints being dropped around, a few more mysteries being added to the pile, and a few people stopping some pretences. First one is the link between 7 and 9 and Picard both being Borged and unborged. Is it possible something is using Borg tech to influence them? Mystery pile for that at the moment. So on with the meat of the episode, where 7 and 9 joins in with the crew for a heist job on Free Cloud. The spangly silver dresses, purple hair and pimp outfits galore. All that's missing is Rick Sanchez and "You son of a bitch, I'm in." Ooh, what's that a reference to? Do we know? No idea. Sorry. We're also back in a low territory with It's His Eye, Le Picard, doing his best French bounty hunter impersonation. I'm surprised Elnor wasn't dressed up as Kato from the Pink Panther. That would have been cool.
We could play out to the Pink Panther theme.
We could do, actually. In fact, doesn't Rios make a remark about 7, the ex-Borg Fenris Ranger from the Delta Quadrant? Not as catchy as 7 and 9 with the big never you minds, but I guess each to their own. You're the second person to make that reference. So it all goes to plan, but not Picard's plan, but somebody's plan. And the crew recover Bruce Maddox, who's giving off some Donald Sutherland vibes, and 7 doesn't kill the boss. Everything is hunky-dory, and Hope has returned to the galaxy. Hurrah! Hurrah? Oh boy. A quick sidebar to Raffi, definitely not on the backy, and we find out why she wants to come to Free Cloud. It's to meet her son and his family. It goes as well as anything does in the series. But not before another 2 items from the mystery pile, take several drinks with the 2 umbrellas, and she's back on the ship before you can say beam me up Scotty. In the meantime, 7 has been back down to the bar with 2 assault phases to win the best Terminator competition. Yeah. Maddox has dropped some hints in the medical bay, while Dr. Jurati is almost mouthing the word shut up, shut up, shut up, shut up in the background before she has a chance to kill him off, even though Clippy the EMH pops up. So she was working for the Zapvash all along, or they know how to brainwash people pretty well as the EMH keeps popping up. What does she know, or what was she shown? Does this cross over into Discovery Season 2? Or does he mean Season 3, I wonder? Phew, it's a lot to take in and keep track of. I'm sure there's plenty I've missed. There's an underground demand for Borg implants. Why and who is using them? Are they wanted to improve some species or develop AI technology? Ooh. The Simps were interfered with by someone. Raffi has potentially pointed the finger at the Federation. They destroyed their largest shipyard and closest colony to enable a political removal of the synthetics. Jacques Vache has been in existence for a long time hunting AI robotics. What do they know and why is it important to remain hidden? Who's pushing Picard's dream buttons? How are they doing it? Is it via the Borg implants? The reduction of Starfleet and Federation has left significant gaps politically in the galaxy. Law and order at an all-time low. Which race can benefit from that? Enough. Course laid into Picard Episode 6. Engage. Yeah, there's certainly plenty of questions being asked here, as well as a few things being answered, which is always good.
Yeah. I don't know. I didn't think Picard had any of his implants left. I thought they got them all out.
Yeah, but it's more sort of the psychological impact. I mean, you think back to First Contact and he's getting those dreams. Oh, he's got no implants then.
Yeah.
But he's almost still connected to the collective, isn't he? So Ooh, that rhymes. Anyway, we've also heard from Doreen.
And Doreen writes, now that I've been reminded that Picard was assimilated into the Borg, I can cope with last week's episode a lot more. I'm now going with imagining Picard on a really long recovery from addiction or cult-like experience. I'm quite glad to have a darker, more complicated Trek. I was no longer appreciating the old fairy tale type Trek as much as I used to.
Uh-huh. Yeah, I think it was of its time, wasn't it? And this is definitely of our time, isn't it? Which, in some ways, is a shame because a bit of escapism is good. But yeah, and even with the movies, obviously he's a damaged character there following his assimilation. So yeah, thank you, Doreen.
Thank you.
And we've heard from the Llama God.
Llama log, Scotty, Ficket, ya, Fickety, ya. Ooh, ooh. Oh, God, no, really? Oh, no. I was having my dinner. Okay, admittedly, that's my own fault. I had been warned about that, but I wasn't expecting the grossness to come right at the start. And eyes, too. Ooh. This clearly isn't the Star Trek The Next Generation that we're used to, unless, of course, you're thinking of Conspiracy, because that was also fairly gross, wasn't it? But, yeah, was it necessary strictly to have that much over-the-top horror at the start of the episode? I don't know. It's an interesting question, really, because the Borg have always been quite high on the body horror thing. It's always been suggested, though. There was, in the original plans, anyway, for Picard's assimilation, and there were plans for him to have actually lost his right hand when they replaced it with the Borg attachment instead, and obviously he'd have had to have received a prosthetic one. Obviously they decided to go nowhere with that storyline and instead just made his arm ridiculously long instead by stuffing the attachment onto the end. But with the invasiveness of all the Borg implants and everything, it is certainly very icky, and that's usually just suggested. To actually see it realised here as something else, and maybe the intention was to show us just how horrible it is to actually have to cut up a Borg. You know, they're not just machines, they are living, feeling things. So yeah, maybe that was a point they wanted to make, or maybe they're just making the most of their higher rating certificate. I don't know. But that aside, I really loved this episode. This was a lot of fun. The trailers last week showed the crew all getting into their crazy costumes to plan this heist, and it certainly didn't disappoint. Admittedly, the heist took up a lot less of the episode than I was expecting, but still, it was glorious just for the moments that we got to see Patrick Stewart doing a wonderful, over-the-top French accent. I actually haven't spoken much about Patrick Stewart's performances here because, I don't think there's a lot to say about them, really. They're great. Of course they're great. It's Patrick fucking Stewart. But it was great this week to see him do something other than just being quite tortured and very apologetic for his past actions. And it was quite refreshing to see that he didn't actually have past history with Seven as well. But yeah, just to see him chewing all the scenery was absolutely delicious. And also seeing that the seemingly flamboyant Captain Rio is actually a little bit reserved when it comes to these things, that was lovely too. Love the little concept of the fact that the alien lizard bodyguard could smell whether you're lying. Just a nice little sci-fi touch like that. I really loved all that detail. I can't say that it's great to see 709 back again simply because I didn't watch very much of Voyager, so not really particularly attached to the character, but she did a fantastic job in this. I loved it. I loved her backstory. Don't actually know if that Borg we saw being pulled apart was actually in Voyager or not. I'm sure you'll have mentioned this by now, so I look forward to finding out on the podcast. But she did a great job. I loved everything she was doing in this, and her waging her war of vengeance against Vjazzle. Vjazzle, really? I know that you've already called her Vjazzle by now. I know who I'm dealing with here. But yeah, they gave her a nice little darker backstory than I was expecting, so that was good. Also nice to see Raffi's character fleshed out a little bit. It turns out that she was a bit of an absentee mum. Someone mentioned in your last podcast about her getting fired from Starfleet. I don't think she actually got fired as such, because the Federation doesn't quite work like that. They probably actually just moved her sideways onto a less interesting project, so more constructive dismissal rather than complete firing and taking away salary, because you have no salary in the future except when you do, because Picard's paying Captain Rio double here now or something. I don't know. But it was nice to get a little bit of her backstory as well. And Agnes, we learn more of her story. There had been the suspicions, of course, that she was some sort of double agent, and then we learn at the beginning that she was, in fact, in a relationship with Maddox, which is icky. That's twice the amount of ick in this episode. I'm not sure what's worse, but never mind. Was wondering at that point, actually, whether we were going to find out that she was actually an android and all those memories that she was watching were false. But when Maddox finally came back to the ship, I was starting to suspect that she was going to end up killing him exactly as she did, and clearly she's got an ulterior motive. Whether she's actually working for the Admiral, I don't know. She says it's about things she's been told, so is she a double agent? Is it just that she's realised some horrific truths about Maddox's work? I don't know. This is an interesting mystery that I can't quite figure out, so I'm looking forward to seeing how this one unfolds and what the revelations are here. So yeah, definitely very much enjoyed this one. There was a lot of fun with some meaty moments as well, so yeah, this is actually picking up some pace. I'm really liking this. And a couple of cool little background bits as well. I mean, there was the planet that the Borg is being tortured on at the beginning, being called Vjazzle, which is of course German for forgotten. Deep meaningful there, I guess, maybe. And I don't know if you spotted, but the advert in the background of Freak Out was for Mott's Hair Emporium. Fantastic. Now we know what happened to some of the other notable crew members of the Enterprise D after Riker scuttled it due to some terrible decision making during that battle at Viridian 3. So hurrah! Good. Mr. Mott is doing well. He's got his own hair boutique on a Star Wars casino planet. Brilliant. Loved it. And the best thing about the episode, really, is that we don't have to do any incest watch this week. Although, if you're going to have a theme tune for that, I guess it's going to have to be the Game of Thrones theme tune. I don't know. But yeah, I guess the only disappointment really is that we're not going to be seeing more of 709 because she did work really well with the crew. And we didn't see very much of young, sexy Ninja Elrond. But the scenes that he did have showing his naivety, yeah, they were sweet and funny. So hopefully seeing more of him next week as well. So yeah, really liking this and looking forward to next week. So until then, looking forward to hearing what everyone else has to say. And glory to you and your cast.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Yes, Picard's definitely having more fun in this episode, isn't he, for the most part?
Yes.
And each ebb was indeed in Voyager. Several episodes with the vaguely remember the Borg children, but none of them were any good, I'm pretty sure. So, and presumably Seven is no longer together with Chakotay, so which makes complete sense.
Did that happen?
Yeah, that happened at the end, didn't it? The two of them became an unrealistic item, didn't they?
Oh, Chakotay, just no. Just no. I didn't want that image. I'd rather have the icky eye.
Yeah. Yes, I suppose, unfortunately, he hadn't been Borgified at any point, but yeah, this episode could have only been improved by having Chakotay being dissected at the beginning. Yeah. To the cheers of all present, including Robert Beltran, I suspect, because he never enjoyed the role, did he?
No. But overall, I enjoyed this one.
Good stuff. Yes, very much looking forward to the next one. We unfortunately have to be recording on Friday next week, so a bit earlier. But as ever, if you can't get feedback in for that, don't worry. If you send us feedback in, we'll include it in the following one. And those of you who also listen to Borgcast Galactica, we've also discovered, thanks to diaries conspiring against us, that we're going to have to record a little earlier for the Galactica podcast as well. So we're recording on Sunday the 1st. Our lives are slightly chaotic at the moment. But hey, we're halfway through Picard now, so another month's time things quieten down a bit.
And then it'll be Discovery.
No, I'm sure there'll be I hope there'll be a bit of a gap. Anyway.
Because Discovery is March.
Is it?
Yeah.
Oh, good grief. Maybe we won't get a break then. Oh.
I just hope there isn't an overlap.
Yeah.
Between Discovery and Picard and...
No, we can't be doing that. Surely not. They wouldn't do that to us. Well, CBS isn't going to do that, are they? So, phew. Right. Okay, well, with that worrying thought, we'll catch you next time. Cheery bye.
Bye.
Too much Trek. All music referenced is for illustrative purposes only, and no copyright infringement is intended.
Find our website at borgcast.libsyn.com.
And we have a YouTube channel as well.
You can find the Borgcast playouts on Spotify for your listening pleasure.
Visit our Tumblr site at borgcast.tumblr.com, where you'll find images accompanying the episodes discussed in this cast.
Send emails or MP3s to borgcast@gmail.com.
Or you can contact us via Twitter on rev_org or borgcastammo. #Borgcast.
Shut it down!